Welcome to this Grandma's Life podcast. I'm your host, theciaellis. Get ready to laugh, learn, and grow with me as we explore growing old in an ever-changing world. One of the good things about growing old is people judge you less when you sometimes say outrageous things. I'm getting older, and I've had a fascinating life. I also have opinions. You may not agree with these opinions, and I may not care. Even now, I am passionate about many things. I love to learn. I love quotes, and I care about my country. Join me as we explore join me as we explore loving life even as we age. This is June 17, 2025, and this is episode 81, Gardening, another tool for preparing for the next Great Depression. In this episode, we are covering the next in the series, Are You Ready for the Next Great Depression? Discussing gardening as a good way to prepare. But first, what's been going on? Lots of stormy weather. It seems like certainly by mid-June, all the rain is over, and we're still getting rain. We've already had one storm roll in today, and several this last 2 or 3 weeks. And we've got another one coming at us here in the next few minutes. Well, we've got time. It's still up in Kansas. Kansas is getting hit pretty hard right now as I speak. But we've just had lots of stormy weather. I have moved again since the last time I had posted a podcast. I no longer live with my son and his family. I have moved into the parsonage, and they have it's an older house. It's built in the 80s. To me, that's not that much older, but I guess it is. But it's a nice, beautiful, solid house, 3-bedroom. And one of my good friends, she was already living here because her husband had died a couple of years ago, and she's just gone through a whole lot and needed some housing. She is now in the process of moving out and getting into an apartment now that she's finally got probate and everything else taken care of. But she's been living in this 3-bedroom home, and so I've had a bedroom in here that I've been staying in, and I have to admit I really like it here. I really appreciate the fact that I can live in the parsonage, and I've just been at peace since I've been here, and I'm glad. And I'm going to move again. I just don't know when, but right now this is a good place for me to land. I'm at peace with the world again. Generally, there's always something going on, and that I can't talk about yet. But I could. But one way or another, I'm doing better. I'm feeling better. I'm emotionally better in a lot of ways. So I'm glad I'm moving again. On another note, though, my dad, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, he decided he needed to do some physical therapy, despite what the nurses had told him. And he actually fractured his back. I think he has feeling in his legs again now, but the next morning he couldn't move his legs at all. And so he was in the hospital for a few days. They put him back into he's in the later stage of Alzheimer's and stuff. And so Mom was in the house in the same facility with him, and they're a pair. Goodness, they're a pair. But he's in the later stages of Alzheimer's, and Mom's in the mid stages of Alzheimer's. And I did just get noticed a couple of days ago that Dad has not gotten out of bed or is eating since coming back from the hospital. So Diana and I, my friend that I'm living with here in the parsonage, are here in 2 days. We're about to head out and go to Florida to go see if we can see Dad and Mom. Certainly I hope I get there before Dad dies. And this will probably be the last time I see my parents alive. And so I'm looking forward to going. I was hoping I could take Kinsey, but we didn't get enough notice. You know how it is when somebody they say somebody's dying, you just scramble and get around and get down the road. And she works very hard. My little granddaughter works so hard. And in a 4-day period, the 4 days I was planning on being gone, she had scheduled herself for 7 shifts. So yeah, and she couldn't. It's hard to cover that many shifts on short notice. So she couldn't go. I'm hoping I can take her on another trip somewhere down the road, and that's what we're going to do. We survived kids camp. I'm still editing the video for that one, and I should have had it done a long time ago, but I haven't gotten it done. There's a lot been going on. Well, for one thing, like I said, the lady that I'm living with, she's moving out, and she has a lot of stuff. She had lived in a house for 40 years, something like that. And she she does crafting, and she taught Sunday school for years and years and years. So she has all of the Sunday school things. And so there's a lot of stuff in this house. And apparently she's already sold a bunch of it too. But she and I have already taken, I think, total of 5 carloads over to her new place. And I think when we get back the weekend after that, I think she's got access to her family who can help her move her bed and furniture and all that other stuff. And then things are going to start being clearing out here in this house, and I'll be living here alone. Probably I'll continue to live alone. I'm hoping that Kinsey can move here too, but she's about to head off to college, so there's no reason for her to move again, I guess. But maybe she can come visit occasionally. I don't know. But so and so that's the reason I haven't gotten the footage done for kids camp and get that put out to you. I had started a walking to jogging group, and I was happy about that because my foot, I had surgery on it about 1.5 years ago, and a little bit more than that now, I guess. And the foot had just not healed correctly. He had to partially disconnect the Achilles tendon to cut out a lot of bone growth. I have a lot of arthritis in my feet, and I had bone spurs and stuff. And so he cut it in there, but the foot wasn't healing. So I didn't know why. And I went to a different doctor, and he said, she said, I have a lot of scar tissue in the foot. So I thought, man, you know what? Maybe it's because I was too gentle on it. I don't know. So I'm doing physical therapy basically every day. And I've started trying to take up jogging, and my foot's holding out pretty good for the jogging. My knees and hips are not holding out. So I've had to take a few days off from that. So, I would like to train for a 5K. I can actually do that distance. It's slow. I'm sorry. I'm 62. I'm going to be 63 in a few weeks. And with the damage to my feet and all my other joints, I have a granny jog. I'm not going to lie. So if I do a 5K, I won't be breaking any speed records. That's for sure. My life is up in the air. I thought I was supposed to go to court a couple of weeks ago, and we had some events that had happened, and we've had to postpone court till August 7th. So that means that by that time, my life will have been in limbo for a total of 6 months at that time. And I know it's going to come to an end, and I know things are going to work out okay. But boy, sometimes it gets so frustrating, especially with some of the things that's going on, to create that problem that we have to wait till August 7th. Sunday. Okay, so I'm telling you, I've been staying with Diana in her house, or the parsonage with her, and she sleeps later than I do. And so I get up and I do all my book work, and I do Bible study and all that other stuff. And the poor thing, by the time she comes out, I've been awake for a while, and I'm going, hey, what do you want to do today? What do you want to do today? And so it was actually Father's Day, and it was rainy though. So that kind of helped us in a lot of ways, because we went to church that morning and had a Father's Day breakfast, and then church, and then Diana and 2 other ladies and I hopped in my car, and I took them on. There's a route I like to take, because parts of Eastern Oklahoma is pretty as it is, but there are parts of Eastern Oklahoma that's just downright beautiful. And a couple of these ladies are transplants from other states, and they don't know how pretty it is here. So I took them up to a little place called Little Blue Park. Is in Disney, Oklahoma. And then we went south to Spavinaw, and there's another park over there. And we had such a good time. That was my chair squeaking. But we had a beautiful time and took pictures, and it was just a nice day. And I was so glad. So now we're preparing for a trip to Florida. It's going to be a long drive. I'm going to drive because the dates that we could stay with my brother was going to be on days that you can't get the real cheap flights. And then once you get the flight, you either got to figure out somebody. So it was going to be like over $500 for just me round trip to go to fly to Florida, to, Jacksonville, and then figure out how to get a vehicle or have somebody pick me up at the airport and stuff like that. So even though it's going to be a long drive, it's about 18 hours, something like that. I decided to drive. My car would probably most likely make it. There's no reason it shouldn't. And it'll cost considerably less for us to do that. And then I'm going to have Diana as my co-pilot to help me get there. And it's actually going to work out for her too, because she's going with, well, I mean, it's going to work out for both of us. We're going to get to go see my parents for the last time. We'll get some beach time in. And then on the way back, she has a friend that lives in Tupelo, Mississippi, that she wants to stop by and see. So we're going to drop by and see one of her best friends in Mississippi on the way back. So I'm hoping to have, I'm going to have some footage of that somewhere along the way. You know, I'll take the footage. I just don't know when the video will come out and everything, but that's what we're doing. What I'm listening to is I'm listening to Buy Back Your Time by Dan Mardell. And I'm almost finished with that one. And I probably listened to it again. And the other one is Full Moon, Fool Moon by Jim Butcher. And that's the fiction one that I'm doing. And I'm reading The Middle Ages by Morris Bishop. Now it's an older book. I think we looked at it and it was written in the 70s, I think, something like that. So I don't know how accurate, I mean, because, you know, you always learn things as you go through life and get a different perspective on what happened in a particular era. But I'm still reading about the Middle Ages, and it's been pretty interesting so far. And I've already listened to this book twice, and now I have it as in print so that I can read it. And this is what I'm doing now, is I'm reading Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, and I'm reading it in the print. And then, of course, I'm doing my highlighting so that I can do a podcast for it in the future. So that's what I've got going there. My quote of the week is, if you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way. And that's by Napoleon Hill. And I've covered Napoleon Hill, his life before when I was researching, which I was kind of surprised the stuff I had learned. So I won't go into great detail of his life. He was born in 1883 and died in 1970 at the age of 87. His life was frequently punctuated by allegations of fraud, domestic abuse, and infidelity. Nonetheless, he was the author of one of the best self-help books still in the market today, Think and Grow Rich. So again, the quote is, if you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way. Napoleon Hill. So now we're on to our main subject. It is gardening, another tool for preparing for the next Great Depression. So let's do a little bit of, let's go back a little bit, and I can tell you the other episodes I've done. So in episode 48, I did the introduction. And in episode 50, my one was, how much do you really eat? Because if you're trying to prepare for something, you want to you want to know how much you need of something and stuff. And so that episode is to help you determine how much you really eat. Episode 56 is the prepping. That is the prepper's view on how to prepare for the next Great Depression. Episode 72 is homesteading. And that's the other way of forming to doing the are you ready for the next Great Depression? Episode 76, prepping combined with homesteading to get ready for it. And then episode 79 is, where do I start? Because sometimes you can feel like it's kind of a little bit overwhelming to do so many things that needs to be done to be prepared to the best of your ability. So another thing that I have been doing lately is on Thursdays, I've been getting to sit with a beautiful woman that I love dearly. She's going to be 92 in August, and she's in her very last days too. I don't know how much longer she's going to be on this earth, but I get to sit with her all day long and talk with her. And and it's Tom's Aunt Frankie, beautiful lady. I love her dearly. And so we've already had a lot of conversations over the years together as it is, but now I'm getting to sit with her and talk even more and sit with her all day, where before when I was sitting with her, I was feeling guilty because I wasn't getting up and doing something else. She was born in 1933, and she has, I can't remember, she's got 2 or 3 siblings older than her. She's got several younger than her, but she was part of the older group. I think they was kind of born in 2 different groups, but they had some land out. Now her mother was Native American, and so they were given acreage to live on. And of course, back in those days, they lived out in the country. They actually rode a horse and carriage or a wagon, basically a horse-drawn wagon, to go to town to buy groceries or whatever they need to do. But not even if it's not groceries, you know what I'm saying? They didn't have a car for a long time. And And like I said, she was born in 1933. So we're not even talking the 1800s here. We're talking about in the early to mid 1900s. So her daddy actually had a draft horse and plowed for cotton. He grew cotton every year, which I thought was interesting because I lived several years in Southwest Oklahoma, and they grow cotton down there. They grow wheat and cotton and stuff. But he grew cotton, and when it was time to harvest, all the kids would actually go out and pick the cotton. This is what Frankie was telling me about it. They would go pick the cotton, and they weighed how much they picked every day, and her daddy kept track of it. And then when they sold the cotton, the money, each kid got the money for how much cotton they had picked, but it went toward earning money for their winter hats and boots. But even then, they all had different things that they had to do on the homestead. I think it was on 40 acres that they were taking care of. Frankie herself, her job was to milk the goats. I think there was a milk cow too. I can't remember, but there had to be somebody to haul wood because they had a wood stove, and so that's what her mother cooked on. And they had to haul water, and they did gardening, and then they did canning and stuff. And I'm sure they did a whole lot more, but that's just what I was discussing with Frankie. And so each child had their own chores, including helping in the garden. They had to, not only did Frankie milk the goat and help haul wood and stuff, but she also had to go out there and help take care of the garden, help, weed it, or when it was time, pick the garden and stuff. And then the evenings were spent shucking corn, shelling peas, snapping green beans, etc., whatever. And Frankie said that her mother canned all summer long. As soon as something was done and it was harvested, they shucked or snapped or whatever, and she canned it for the winter. And sadly, her daddy was killed when Frankie was 13. And her mama was actually pregnant with the youngest sister when he was killed. So their life changed a lot. But then one of the biggest things is of course, the work continues. They stayed on the farm for several years, but there was nobody to grow the cotton anymore. So that form of income actually went away. So I just want to kind of share that with you, what I've been learning from Aunt Frankie and stuff. And some will give you a little bit of a glimpse of what people had to go through to live, even in the 30s, When we first get started gardening, we're inclined to want to plant and grow everything. If you think about it, you're going, I want to be a gardener. I want to grow this. I want to grow that. And I'm going to do this with it. And I want to have a good time with it and stuff. And that's not always such a good idea. So like in episode 50, where I was talking about how much you eat, it's not just how much you eat, but what do you eat? Do you really eat kale? Some people do. Or okra. Or jalapenos. And even if you do eat jalapenos, how many plants do you need? Do you need 12 pepper plants? Or 6 tomato plants enough? If you make your own spaghetti sauce and diced tomatoes and all that other stuff, I could tell you that 6 tomato plants are not enough. So you need to know what you eat. And there are a lot of really good tools that you can find online that will actually tell you, if it helps you calculate how much you eat in a year and how much you need to grow to produce that much. And of course, I have a struggle with that a little bit because every year is different when it comes to growing. There are some years you're not going to be able to grow a tomato to save your life. And other years you won't be able to grow the okra or something like that, where something else really thrives. So there are always things that are variations, but it gives you an idea. It helps you to learn by the number of family, in your family and all that, how many plants you should plant of each thing of what you actually eat. And it helps you figure out how to plan your food for the year. So yeah, if you're interested in anything like that, I would go online and find there's several. I was trying to think one particular person that she actually has a planning thing. Melissa, I can't remember her name. She's up in the Northwest, but she has a good planning guide to help you decide how much you eat and how much you're going to need. And okay, so then when you do have your stuff that's planted, how much are you willing to can? Are you willing to can? Can maybe you can only you only want to eat fresh? Are you willing to eat? When you garden, you want to go out there and maybe just grab a cantaloupe and take it inside and eat it fresh and stuff. Of course, with cantaloupe, that's kind of almost what you have to do is eat it fresh anyway. But if you got tomatoes and peppers and all and onions and everything like that, you bring it in and eat it fresh. But are you willing to can some of it? And you need to determine how much of it you're willing to can at this time. As you learn to garden, as you learn to do more with it, then you can plant more and learn to can and all those stuff. So the gardening journey. Wait, and canning is not something you're willing to do yet. Maybe okay. So let's start. Some people say let's just start with an herb plant. Okay, well that's great. And you get a herb plant, that's a good start. As satisfying as it is to proudly tell your family that the spaghetti you made for dinner had the fresh parsley that you grew on your front porch, that one herb plant is not going to feed your family. It's a good thing for you to do to get you started. But if you were trying to feed your family through a winter, that one little piece of parsley plant is not going to do much for you. It's good for your ego. It's good for you to say that's what's in your food and that, but you need it sometime or another. You need to determine what it is that you need to feed your family. And I'm also not indicating that you should plant an acre garden to keep up with when you first get started. You will be overwhelmed from the beginning, and you just never want to garden again, and your family can just starve, and that's not good either. So start with like one raised bed or a small plot of a garden so that you can manage easily and experiment with different plants. You need to know the different plants and when they mature, when they get coming around, and the variety, so that when they are going to be mature, just different things. But start with the plants that you know that and sometimes it's just easier to start with something that you know is easy to grow. So learn the varieties that you like and will grow in your garden. Different climates and different soils produce different results. Learn as you go. Learn about soil amendments. What does they have soil testing that you can take your soil and send it off and get it tested, so you can find out what nutrients your soil needs and stuff. But you can learn soil amendments. You can use a fertilizer and stuff, but if you can learn soil amendments that are natural, then you don't have to worry about what's in the fertilizer and what's going into the ground and then what's eventually going into the Gulf of Mexico. But that's a whole nother thing. Let's see. When there's different ways of weed suppressants too. You don't have to spray weed stuff. And then when you plant and when you harvest, like, this sounds funny, but when you do you're young at gardening, you don't always know when that particular thing is ripe and ready to pick. I was told a story of one lady. She had gone out there and she was checking her broccoli, and it looked beautiful. She says, "All right, good deal. Tomorrow I will harvest my broccoli." She harvested her broccoli was looking beautiful, and she was going to go out and she was going to harvest her broccoli. Well, the next day she went out there and it all gone to flower. So all that work that she had done to have her harvest of broccoli, she waited one day too late, and she had flowers instead of broccoli that she can eat. So that's what you kind of need to learn too. Not just how to grow and not how to weed and all that other stuff. You also need to know when is the time to pick that particular thing that you're gardening. So all of this takes time. And so it's best to start now, because the learning process is now, and you can expand as you desire or as needed. There's a lot to learn, but by experimenting and keeping your garden at a size that you can manage, you will go a long way toward being able to feed your family should the needs arise. Learn how to save seeds from your harvest. Local climate, local soils, seeds do better generally. Okay, so let's talk about seeds here. Now, of course, you can always go to the store and buy some seeds, and that's an okay thing too. That's probably what most of us do. I still do, because I never did learn to save seeds, but that is something that's actually pretty important if you are preparing for the next Great Depression. Learn how to save seeds, learn how to plant them. Not a lot of people, there are some people advocate getting a seed bank, and a seed bank is like a can. It's not a little can, but it's kind of a big can, and it's full of all kinds of seeds of all the it's going to have the corn and the peas and all that other stuff in it. And you keep it in your freezer until all of a sudden it's like, oh no, it's the end of the world. We got to plant this plant. Well, by the time you By the time you realize it's time for you to plant the stuff that's in that seed bank, it's going to be too late. You got it might be the wrong time of the year, and even if it's not, by the time you get all those plants in the ground like they were supposed to be done, and you get it harvested, you're going to starve to death, and you're not even going to know if those seeds are good for your climate in your different areas. Some people, this things in a seed bank are not. You might be able to get them for different growing zones, whether it's colder or something like that. But one way or another, it's not something that's acclimated to where you are. So the best thing to do is learn and save your own seeds, and then you'll be better off with that. So as you learn how much you really need and the varieties of plants you like, you can return to the idea of expanding your garden until it's truly one that you can feed your family should the need arise. And there's so many methods of growing that you can experiment with also. Okay, there's square foot gardening, and I think I had left out companion planting too. But let's do square foot gardening. That is where you, instead of planting in rows, and they tell you, if you look on the seed packet, it tells you, plant 18 inches apart and the rows 2 foot wide, and that's good in some ways. But in other things, if you learn how much room your plant takes, you can do what they just call square foot garden. How many plants can grow in a healthy way in 1 square foot? And you learn to manage your garden that way. And it's kind of more intensive growing and stuff. And then I had what I had thought about and had forgotten to write down was succession planting. So you planted some peas, because peas are an early spring thing, but then by now for sure they're done, and now you've got a hole in your garden that you had peas in. Pull them out and then plant something else in. So that's succession planting. Or you could say, I want to have radishes at certain times of the year. You can plant a short row of radishes, and then a few weeks later plant another short row of radishes, so that you can have a succession of planting of radishes that will last you throughout the summer, but you didn't plant it all at one time. You planted it so they all mature at different times. So that's kind of a cool thing too. Hay bale gardening, that's kind of something that somebody's come up with, and that looks like that's a lot of work. But they say that if you can get a hay bale that's not been sprayed, a lot of hay has been sprayed for pesticides or herbicides, and if you invest into a hay bale where the plants can grow in, if it's got a herbicide in it, you're not going to have a garden. But that is one of them. So container gardening, that's one thing. That's actually kind of a good one to start out with, is container gardening, because you have complete control of what kind of soil it is that you're dealing with, and it's all contained basically. Vertical growing, if you have small spaces even in your yard, you can learn how to string up things, like trellises for the peas and different things like that, so that the garden grows more vertically instead of horizontally and taking up so much room. So then you've got the in-ground beds. That's what a lot of people have for their traditional gardening, and then the raised bed. And then of course, as I've aged, I notice a lot of people particularly prefer the raised bed. That way they're not bending all the way to the ground to take care of the weeds or harvest or anything like that. So there's a lot of things there. And now we can talk about hydroponic. Hydroponic, that's something. In fact, I know some people who's doing some hydroponics in the basement of their house. And another lady, she's doing something along that line in the corner of her kitchen. But that is where you introduce water-based nutrients, and you're growing the plants in water. So you're putting nutrients in the water, and the plants are growing in the water, and there's not even any soil to even deal with. And then aquaponics is using fish or something on that line to provide the nutrients to the plants, and the fish provide the nutrients for the plants, and the plants filter the water for the fish. And so it's and then the plants can grow into all of that at the same time. So it's kind of a cool thing, but that's kind of, that you generally, is like the men go, ooh, I want to try that, because we want to try, I want to grow, because it's not just going in the dirt. They're having to build something to do it. So there's a lot of more things, I'm sure, that, like I said, I had forgotten about the one. So there's more that I can think of that I can't think of at this time. So the active garden is often considered good for the soul. You plant, you tend, You weed and water, and you observe the plants. You learn what it needs. Why are the leaves yellow? Why are the bugs liking this particular plant? Bugs usually only go after plants that are already struggling in the first place. So you have to learn how all that stuff. So but it's still kind of good for your soul to do the weeding and to watch it and observe and stuff like that. And then when you have a variety of food to planted in your garden, many of these plants go through their growing and maturing stages at different times. So observation never gets old. While something is like in the tiny stage and it's just emerging from the ground, you're going to have something else that's in a different stage that you can observe in that. And then, of course, you have still yet another one that was planted away earlier, and it's in the maturing stage and even ready to be harvested. So there's a lot of different things. It just keeps it fresh and new, and it's kind of nice. So then you get to harvest, and you can either eat it fresh for dinner or later in the winter months after you've preserved the food that you grew yourself, or both. That's what a lot of people do. They have something they pulled out of the garden. They have a large crop that they pulled in for that day. They made some of it for dinner, and then they can the rest of it to last them through the winter. Some argue that because they live in a city or an apartment, they can't garden, and I don't think I agree with that. If you think about it, you go into a house that's full of potted plants. What's to say you couldn't grow food in those potted plants instead? I mean, and some people have a lot, and you can grow a lot of food in potted plants inside your house. I mean, if you still want to have your beautiful ivies and all that other stuff, you can do that too. But instead of using the excuse that you live in an apartment and you can't garden, you could say, I know how to do potted plants. I think I'll do, instead of growing something that's just ornamental, I can do something that'll feed my family. So many smart people have come up with inventive ways to grow food and provide food for their families. It's just a matter of understanding the need and putting your mind to coming up with possible solutions. Gardening is just one more tool to provide food stability for preparation for the next possible Great Depression. So what did I miss? What are some ideas that you can think of in the gardening area? Did there something else I could have been able to do? I don't know. Let me know. Give me your thoughts at theciaellis@gmail.com, THECIA @gmail.com. I am using Streamyard. I love Streamyard. You can do, and it's doing a lot more things that this old lady can't even figure out what you can do. But Streamyard is where I am recording on right now, so that I can actually get it posted later on through the day. When the ones you can see me, I can do it as a video, and I can do it as audio only. And so it's a nice setup. And they've got all kinds of things going on. So check out StreamYard.com. If there's something that you want to do, that you want to record a podcast or something like that, go to the link below where for the StreamYard and use my link below. I would appreciate it. It doesn't cost you any more, but it does provide a little bit of something for me for the effort. Where I can be found, I'm on Rumble under Thecia, and that's where I post I do pretty much all my videos. And when I do the scripture, when I do the quotes, when I do my grandma's homestead, when I do this grandma's life, and I also put Kenzie's softball games and stuff on Rumble too. And it's also a good thing. This was a platform that people went to whenever we were going through a lot of, especially during the COVID era, when we were being kind of squelched from what we could say about what we thought about that. By YouTube, a lot of people went on to Rumble, and they use that as the platform they use to listen to podcasts and watch the videos and all that other stuff. So I can be found on Rumble at Thecia. I'm also got Grandma's Homestead.farm, Grandma's Homestead YouTube channel, Kenzie Lackey Sports YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and X under some form of Thecia or something on that line. And that's it. All right. Like I said, let me know what you think. And remember, guys, live until you die. This is all we've got. Once we pass on to the next world, we're not going to be here anymore. So enjoy yourself while you are here. God bless. I'll see you next time.